OpenAI's GPT-4 is no more the best LLM model out there. Anthropic just released Claude 3.0, which claims to be the best LLM model, even better than GPT-4. Let's take a look at their blog to understand this better. They have released 3 versions of Claude 3, namely Haiku, Sonnet, and Opus. Haiku being the fastest model, but the accuracy and intelligence might not be as good. Sonnet being the middle ground between Haiku and Opus in terms of latency and performance, and Opus being the largest and the greatest LLM model that they have released. As you can see from this timeline, the intelligence benchmark doesn't really explain what this metric is, but this is a representation that they have shown for cost per million tokens. In their benchmarks, they compare Claude 3 with GPT-4, GPT 3.5, and even Gemini Ultra and Gemini 1.0 Pro. As you can see from the benchmarks, Claude 3 Opus is crushing through across all these benchmarks of MMLU, GPQA, GSM 8K, which are the popular benchmarks, and it is performing the best across all these benchmarks. They are comparing these models on similar grounds, namely 5 shot in each scenario, instead of comparing it with different prompting styles. What they also claim is that you will get faster speed. So in this case, Haiku is the fastest model with the most cost effective, and it can read information and data dense research papers of up to 10k tokens with charts and graphs in less than 3 seconds, which is amazing. What they also say is that Sonnet is 2 times faster than Claude 2 and 2.1, which is already amazing, and Opus has similar speeds to Claude 2 and 2.1. Ideally, you would want to use Haiku for faster tasks, but you can compromise on the accuracy, whereas Sonnet would be the best choice in terms of cost and latency, in terms of performance, cost, and latency. What they also say is that they have now introduced vision capabilities inside Claude, which means it can now understand from visual formats including photos, charts, graphs, and technical diagrams. And the results on vision side are even more crazy. As you can see, it is crushing in math and reasoning with 59.4% versus GPT-4V at 56.8%. Gemini 1.0 Ultra has given the best results across these datasets when compared with Claude 3 Opus, but it is still relatively close to all these benchmarks. They have tested it across for science diagrams, math, and other datasets, which is quite amazing. What they also claim is that now Claude 3 will do less refusals. That means that it will not say that it doesn't understand certain requests or reject certain requests which should ideally have been answered correctly, which means that it has a better nuanced understanding of requests and recognize where real harm is there or where the request is not as harmful. Earlier with Claude 2.1, it was about 25% of responses were refused due to the assumption of harmfulness, whereas Claude 3 family is now near to about 10% in refusing the harmful prompts. What they also show is a strong capability of identifying the right relevant information from its 200k context length window, and what they claim is that it surpasses 99% accuracy in needle-in-the-haystack test. Interestingly, what they also say is that Claude 3 was able to identify that it was being tested for needle-in-the-haystack test while being evaluated for this. For example, Alex from Anthropic AI tweeted this needle-in-the-haystack test result. When they ran the test on Opus, they noticed this interesting behavior where the model generated the following output. It first correctly identified that this is the needle in the haystack. However, this sentence seems to be very out of place and unrelated to the rest of the content in the documents, which is about programming language startups and finding work you love. I suspect this pizza topping fact may have been inserted as a joke or to test if I was paying attention. Since it does not fit with the other topics at all, the document do not contain any other information about pizza toppings, which is amazing to see the kind of meta awareness it already has inside it. While they mention this needle in the haystack test for 200k context length, they also mention that they will be supporting up to 1 million tokens for specific use cases, which means it is in the same league as Gemini 1.5 Pro in terms of the context length if required. What they also mention is that they will be frequently releasing updates for Claude 3 model family in the next few months with features such as function calling and interactive coding, in which case LLM is also able to run code that it generates in the environment. They mention that Opus and Sonnet are available in their API today, and Haiku will be available soon. It is also available through Amazon Bedrock and Google Cloud Vertex AI. Though something that will shock you is the pricing of this model. They say that the pricing for input dollars per million tokens will be $15 and the output dollar per million tokens will be $75 for Opus. When you compare it with GPT-4, what you see is that GPT-4 had the cost of input of $10 and output tokens per million is $30, which is too high for Opus model. But you may consider cheaper options like Claude 3 Sonnet, which has the cost of $3 at input side and $15 on the output side, or to use Haiku, which is faster but the performance is not as good, with $0.25 as input tokens and $1.25 for output tokens. All in all, the pace with which generative AI revolution is coming in 2024 is amazing to see, and I'm sure there will be more advancements coming, breaking more records throughout this year, and I will be covering all those, so make sure to follow so that you are up to date. If you liked this content, make sure to like and share it with others as well. This is Anubhav Shrimal. Bye bye.